For 5 straight years, I sent my parents $2,000 every month so they could live comfortably. That was the exact phrase my mother used. Not survive. Not pay bills. Live comfortably. Apparently comfort, in their case, included imported wine, cruise packages, and a backyard fire pit expensive enough to summon ancient spirits. Meanwhile, I was eating instant noodles in a tiny apartment, while working 60-hour weeks as a software engineer. Every time I thought about reducing the payments, my mother would call me crying so dramatically you'd think somebody had just cancelled oxygen. "Your father's blood pressure is acting up again," she'd sniffle. In the background, I'd hear Dad yelling at sports channels while opening another beer. One time she sent me a photo of their empty refrigerator to make me feel guilty. There were exactly 3 things inside it: champagne, cheesecake, and something wrapped in gold foil that looked suspiciously expensive. I should have noticed the warning signs earlier. But guilt is a powerful drug when you grow up hearing phrases like, "We sacrificed everything for you." My parents repeated that sentence so often it basically became our national anthem. Then I met Serena. Serena was smart, funny, terrifyingly confident, and completely immune to my parents' emotional manipulation. She worked in corporate law, which meant she could smell financial nonsense from 3 zip codes away. The first time she visited my parents with me, my mother pretended her arthritis was flaring up so she wouldn't have to carry grocery bags from the car. 5 minutes later, Serena caught her dancing in the kitchen to 80s music while holding a margarita. Serena didn't even say anything at first. She just slowly looked at me with the expression of a woman discovering raccoons had somehow learned tax fraud. "She seems healthy," Serena whispered later. "She has good days," I whispered back. At dinner, my father launched into another speech about the importance of family support, while wearing a smartwatch worth more than my monthly grocery budget. Then my mother smiled at Serena in the fakest way humanly possible. "So," she said sweetly, "do lawyers usually encourage men to abandon their parents financially?" Serena nearly choked on her wine. "Oh no," Serena replied calmly. "I encourage men to recognize when they're being emotionally extorted." I swear the room temperature dropped 10 degrees. After that, my parents treated Serena like she was a government auditor sent to destroy their lifestyle. My mother started referring to her as that financially aggressive woman. Honestly, Serena found it hilarious. I found it slightly less hilarious when my parents began acting like I was betraying the family every time I mentioned budgeting. Still, Serena never pushed too hard. That's what made me fall in love with her. She didn't demand I choose between her and my parents. She just wanted me to stop feeling guilty for existing outside their retirement plan. When I proposed to her, she cried, kissed me, and immediately said, "By the way, after the wedding, we seriously need to talk about your parents' subscription service to your bank account." I laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. Eventually, I agreed we'd slowly reduce the monthly payments after marriage. Nothing cruel. Just healthier boundaries. Oddly enough, when I told my parents, they became incredibly supportive overnight. Too supportive. My mother stopped fake crying on phone calls. Dad suddenly called Serena "kiddo," and both of them kept smiling during wedding planning like cartoon villains hiding dynamite behind their backs. I should have known they were planning something insane. My wedding day actually started perfectly, which honestly should have made me suspicious immediately. The venue overlooked the ocean, the weather was incredible, and for the first time in months, I felt completely relaxed. Serena looked unreal in her dress. The kind of unreal that makes a grown man forget basic vocabulary. When she walked toward me during the ceremony rehearsal, I whispered, "You're way out of my league." She smirked and squeezed my hand. "Correct. But I enjoy charity work." That was Serena. Beautiful, intelligent, and capable of emotionally uppercutting me while flirting. Even my parents seemed unusually calm that morning. Mom hugged Serena without passive-aggressively mentioning prenups. Dad wasn't talking about money for once. They sat there smiling like proud parents in a toothpaste commercial. I ignored the warning signs. Huge mistake. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Soft music. Emotional vows. A few happy tears. My cousin cried so hard he fogged up his glasses. Then the reception started. And my life exploded. Right as Serena and I entered the ballroom for our first dance, I heard a woman scream dramatically into a phone. "Oh my God, you guys, this is so toxic." Every muscle in my body froze. I knew that voice. Candace. My ex-girlfriend. My chaotic, attention-addicted, human headache ex-girlfriend. She came marching through the reception holding a selfie stick with a giant flashing ring light attached to it like some kind of cybernetic influencer weapon. Behind her, 2 assistants carried portable batteries and makeup bags like she was invading a small country. My mother stood up smiling. "There she is," she announced proudly. Serena slowly turned toward me. "You invited your ex to our wedding?" "I absolutely did not." Candace rushed toward us in a skin-tight gold dress that looked spray-painted onto her body by NASA engineers. Her phone camera was inches from her face while thousands of live-streamed comments flooded the screen. "My emotionally awakened warriors," she said dramatically to her followers. "Today we witness what happens when emotionally unavailable men repress their true feelings." I blinked. "What?" Candace ignored me completely and zoomed the camera onto Serena. "And this is the woman standing between destiny and healing." Serena stared at her for 3 solid seconds. Then she leaned toward me and whispered, "I can't decide if I should sue her or tranquilize her." Meanwhile, my father was posing in the background of Candace's live stream like a divorced uncle discovering social media for the first time. Candace kept going. "Oh my God!" she gasped, fake crying into the camera. "Seeing him again just brings back so many memories. The passion. The chemistry. The matching tequila tattoos." Serena's head snapped toward me. "We got them removed," I blurted immediately. Candace grinned at the camera. "Trauma response. Very common." My mother then walked over holding champagne and actually put an arm around Candace. "She was always our favorite," Mom said loudly enough for half the reception to hear. The ballroom went silent. Even the DJ stopped mid-song. One of Serena's bridesmaids whispered, "Holy hell!" But Serena? Serena stayed terrifyingly calm. That somehow scared me more. Candace spent the next hour turning the reception into a live reality show. She interviewed guests during dinner like she was hosting a red carpet event. "So tell me," she asked my drunk Uncle Larry, shoving a microphone toward him, "do you believe true love can survive betrayal?" Larry stared at her for a full 5 seconds before replying, "Depends how drunk everybody is." The live stream comments apparently loved him because Candace screamed, "We stan Uncle Energy." Dad started asking viewers to follow his phishing account. Mom kept fake laughing at Candace's jokes while glaring at Serena like a Disney villain. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Candace grabbed the microphone near the dance floor. "Oh," she sang dramatically, "before the speeches begin, I have something very important to reveal." Candace stood in the middle of the dance floor holding the microphone like she was about to expose a government conspiracy instead of ruin a wedding reception. The live stream viewer count kept climbing behind her face. 10,000 people were apparently spending their evening watching my emotional destruction in real time. "My emotionally awakened warriors," she announced dramatically. "I think it's time people learned the truth about why this marriage is happening." "Oh good," Serena muttered beside me. "The raccoon found cocaine." Candace pointed directly at Serena. "This woman manipulated him into abandoning his family." The room exploded with awkward murmuring. Then my mother stood up on cue like she'd rehearsed this nonsense in front of a mirror. "We sacrificed everything for our son," she sniffled loudly. "And now he's cutting us off financially after all we've done." Dad lowered his head dramatically while sneaking glances around the room to see if people were feeling sorry for him yet. For a second, I actually felt the old guilt creeping back into my chest. Then Serena squeezed my hand. And smiled. Not a nervous smile. A courtroom smile. "Oh, wonderful," she said calmly as she walked toward the microphone. We're doing public accusations now. My favorite. I immediately knew somebody was about to die socially. Serena gently took the microphone from Candace while somehow looking elegant enough to belong on a magazine cover. You're absolutely right, Serena said sweetly. Family support is important. Which is why Ethan has sent his parents over $120,000 during the past 5 years. The ballroom went silent. Candace blinked. Mom's fake crying paused mid-sniff. Serena continued smoothly. Which makes it fascinating that two financially struggling retirees somehow purchased a 70-inch television, luxury massage chairs, designer luggage, and a backyard margarita fountain shaped like a dolphin. Every head in the room slowly turned toward my parents. Dad looked like a raccoon caught stealing ribs from a barbecue. Then Serena pulled out her phone. Oh, and my personal favorite. She turned the screen toward the live stream camera. Photos. Dozens of photos. My parents on cruises. My parents at casinos. My father wearing silk robes beside a pool holding what appeared to be a cigar the size of a submarine missile. Candace's live stream comments started flying so fast even she couldn't keep up. Wait, they're scammers? The dolphin fountain sent me. Free Ethan. My mother panicked instantly. That's out of context. Mom, I said slowly. How is a jacuzzi shaped like Cleopatra out of context? Then the real disaster happened. Grandma stood up. Now, Grandma had been drinking since noon because, according to her, weddings were just funerals with better music. She grabbed a champagne bottle, marched onto the dance floor, and pointed directly at my father. Oh, stop crying, Harold, she barked. You blew $8,000 on dog racing in Tampa. The room erupted. Dad turned pale. Grandma wasn't done. And don't forget those sensual salsa retreats in Mexico. Several guests choked on their drinks. Candace stared at Grandma like she'd discovered a reality television gold mine. Wait, Candace whispered excitedly into the live stream. Your husband attended sensual salsa retreats? Grandma snorted. Honey, your generation invented podcasts. His generation invented cheating. The live stream absolutely exploded. People in the comments were demanding more Grandma stories. Somebody made a hashtag using her name. One viewer offered her a sponsorship deal for tequila. Meanwhile, my mother was trying to physically grab phones away from guests while Dad kept shouting things like, "The dog had great ODDS." Candace accidentally made everything worse by trying to defend them. They're victims of emotional abandonment, she cried dramatically. Unfortunately, while waving her phone around, she accidentally opened private messages live on stream. Messages between her and my mother. The ballroom collectively gasped. There it was in giant readable text. Bring up the tequila tattoos. Make Serena look controlling. If you cry, people will sympathize. Candace froze. My mother froze. Then Serena quietly leaned toward me. Your family planned a social ambush using a motivational influencer. I rubbed my face slowly. Honestly, saying it out loud somehow makes it worse. For the first time all night, the embarrassment faded long enough for me to really look at Serena. Even surrounded by chaos, screaming relatives, and internet humiliation, she stayed calm beside me. She touched my arm gently. You okay? And weirdly, I was. Because standing there in that disaster, I finally understood something. My parents never saw me as their son. They saw me as a monthly payment with feelings attached. The strange thing about public humiliation is that eventually you hit a limit. After a certain point, your brain just sits down emotionally and starts eating popcorn. That's exactly where I was mentally when my mother marched toward me through the reception looking furious enough to sue gravity. You embarrassed us, she hissed. I actually laughed. Not nervous laughter. Real laughter. The kind that escapes when somebody finally pushes you past your breaking point. Mom, I said, you brought my ex-girlfriend to my wedding like a reality show supervillain. Dad stepped beside her, pointing angrily. We are your parents! And apparently unemployed Bond villains. Serena added. Candace was still live streaming nearby while trying to regain control of the narrative. My emotionally awakened warriors, she announced dramatically. Sometimes toxic masculinity weaponizes financial boundaries. At that exact moment, she backed directly into the wedding cake table. The entire 6-tier cake collapsed in glorious slow motion. Candace disappeared into frosting like a rich woman drowning in vanilla violence. The ballroom exploded with screams and laughter, while the live stream camera spun wildly through the air. Somewhere in the chaos, my drunk Uncle Larry yelled. The cake fought back. Within minutes, guests were replaying the clip over and over. Even the DJ abandoned music just to watch the replay on somebody's phone. Meanwhile, Grandma had become an accidental celebrity. A group of bridesmaids surrounded her chanting, Grandma! 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 She stood on a chair holding champagne like a pirate captain. I told you Harold couldn't salsa! She shouted. People cheered. Candace's followers started demanding Grandma create her own social media account. Somebody already printed a photo of her from the live stream onto a cocktail napkin. And standing in the middle of all that chaos, I suddenly felt lighter. Like somebody had finally removed a backpack full of bricks from my chest. I looked at my parents. Really looked at them. For years I'd sacrificed sleep, relationships, and financial stability trying to make them happy. And none of it had ever been enough. Because it was never about love. It was about control. So I took the microphone. The room slowly quieted. My mother immediately straightened up and tried squeezing out another fake tear. Too late. I've spent years believing I owed my parents everything, I said calmly. But tonight made something very clear. Dad crossed his arms. Oh, please. No, I continued. What's clear is that I confused guilt with love. The room stayed completely silent. Then I took a deep breath. So effective immediately. Bank of Sun is officially closed. My mother gasped like I'd announced a meteor strike. Dad looked genuinely horrified. Wait, he blurted. Completely closed? Serena leaned toward me smiling. Beautiful wording, honey. Mom immediately abandoned sadness and moved directly into negotiation mode. But what about the cruise payment next month? There it is, Serena whispered. Dad panicked. You can't cut us off during retirement. You're both 58. I replied. That's not retirement. That's unemployment with decorative sandals. Half the guests burst out laughing. Then Serena's father casually walked over holding a whiskey glass. Now, Richard terrified me slightly because he looked like the kind of rich man who owned both a yacht and enemies. He smiled politely at my parents. You know, he said calmly, I own 6 hardware stores across the state. If money's truly tight, I'd be happy to offer you both jobs. The horror on my parents' faces was immediate. My mother nearly recoiled physically. Dad looked like Richard had invited him to clean prison bathrooms with a toothbrush. We're not retail people, Mom said stiffly. Grandma snorted so loudly she almost inhaled an olive. That was the moment I knew I was finally done. No more guilt. No more manipulation. No more financing grown adults who treated me like a walking ATM machine. I turned toward Serena. Through all the chaos, frosting, screaming relatives, and internet madness, she still looked at me the same way she always had. Like a partner. Not a wallet. I'm sorry it took me this long, I told her quietly. She touched my face gently. I wanted a husband, she said softly. Not a human subscription service. Then she kissed me while the ballroom behind us descended into complete nonsense again. Grandma started dancing with the DJ. Candace was still covered in buttercream screaming about sabotage. Dad was asking guests if anybody knew how to delete live streams from the internet. And honestly, it was the best wedding reception imaginable. A week later, Serena and I were on our honeymoon laughing in bed while watching memes of Grandma go viral online. She'd somehow gained 2 million followers and a sponsorship deal from a tequila company. Dad tried calling 3 times that morning. I blocked the number. Turns out the best wedding gift I received wasn't the blender or the air fryer. It was finally canceling my parents' monthly subscription to my paycheck.